Palm Sunday. The Sunday hour we attended was about 10 o'clock, I think. It happened to be the children's mass, and there were literally hundreds of kids, and those, not these kinds of palms, but those long, thin palm fronds. And my experience was, it was all in Spanish, and I just watched all these little kids whacking their brothers and sisters with their canes. So that was our Palm Sunday experience in Panama. I did make it home. We did make it home for Easter Sunday. You may remember Deacon Jack took Monday, Thursday service and Good Friday service as well. So we call this date, Palm Sunday, the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. And thinking about that term, the triumphal entry, we have a problem. If this is such a glorious Sunday for Christians, what went wrong by Friday that Jesus would find himself betrayed by one of his disciples, arrested by the high priest's guards, accused of coalition by religious leaders, tried by the Roman governor, and sentenced to die a death of a common criminal? To fully understand the switch from hail him to nail him on the cross, it would be helpful to know that history teaches us that the day Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, there was another procession happening on the other side of the city. Jesus and his donkey came in on the east end of the city, and on the west end of the city there was another procession led by the governor of Judea, a man named, you've heard the name, Pontius Pilate. Saw a cartoon once, and there was this big overweight fella, and the little kid was asked, "Who's that?" "Oh, that's Pontius Pilate." Pontius has nothing to do with his, I don't know if he was a big fat guy or not. But anyways, that's beside the point. Whenever there was a big Jewish feast in Jerusalem, Pontius himself, along with his centurions and cavalry, would march into town and make themselves known, because the Romans at that time knew that the Passover feast, which they were celebrating at this time, was in commemoration of the Hebrew people's liberation from Egypt. And that would get into the heads of many of the Jews who were wanting to militarily go against this oppression of the Roman leadership. And so they wanted to make sure there was a big show of soldiers and centurions so as to be careful and quell any uprisings that may emerge from this Passover feast. In fact, there was a Roman garrison named Antonio's Fortress, which was built near the temple compound, just so the Roman army, centurions, could, at that vantage point, scope out Jerusalem and the temple area in case there was some rabble-rousing, they could stifle it. So into the west end of the city, Pontius Pilate and centurions and cavalry on horses and men with their shiny leather armor and hammered helmets and swords, and there were some arrows and bows marched into the city just to intimidate the Hebrew Jewish citizens of Jerusalem, just so they wouldn't get any ideas about an uprising. So that was the one procession. Now back to the other procession of Jesus on his donkey. They both were symbols of two very opposite views of reality. One was might and strength and power and military might should hold sway, and that will be the rule of the day. And of course the contrast, Jesus on a donkey, meek and mild, humble. Two different ways of viewing life. And so the Jews at that time that saw Jesus marching in, not marching, riding in on a donkey, would hail him and, "Hosanna, God, save us now." They saw that he was to be the Messiah, that they all knew about. This Messiah was to be a figure, lineage up to King David, and he would come in and deliver them from this oppressive Roman rule. just like the blood of the lambs, and the Hebrew people were released from Egypt. The Pharaoh said, okay, you can go now. They saw in the Messiah figure someone that would deliver them with might and strength, like King David. So as things went on, we know that gross disappointment in the Hebrew people and the Jews, that they saw him being arrested and put on a cross. And they felt betrayed. They felt betrayed by their so-called Messiah. And so the hail him merged into nail him and give us Barabbas. You can imagine the disappointment. So what does all this have to do with the 21st century in Chillicothe, Ohio? I was thinking about that. How might I apply this to my life and your lives? Well, don't we all have expectations of Jesus? Sure we do. We have a friend who's in the hospital, and we pray for him or her. And someone's unemployed, and we pray for him or her. Or any other challenge, and we beseech Jesus, and rightly so. But nothing happens. At least in the time frame we foist on Jesus. And we feel betrayed by the Lord. That ever happened to you? Maybe you've been praying for someone for, might I say, decades. And you feel, what's up, God? Why haven't you acted? That's how the people felt in kind of a condensed 5-day period from Easter Sunday to Good Friday. But they didn't get it. And didn't we read, that I read in the gospel lesson, it was only afterwards, only after Jesus was glorified, did they realize that these things had been written about him, and that these things, they understood. They understood that this worldview, this approach to reality of humility, meekness, forgiveness, patience, was actually the way that God won the victory, not by might and strength and what we expected. So it's just some thoughts for all of us. Hang in there, be patient. God is at work in every situation in our lives and our neighbors and friends and loved ones' lives. Be patient. God is at work. And the answer might come in an unexpected way, or in a way that you didn't think possible, as it was with the disciples when they finally realized that this was the way for victory. Just some thoughts for you this beautiful Palm Sunday. So these palm branches are a symbol to us of Christ's victory through a different means than we might expect. So after you receive communion, we'll locate these palm fronds over there. Grab one, take it home, and let those palm branches speak to you about all that Palm Sunday and Holy Week is about.